G'day everyone. Well, thought we would have a look at oil changes today. It's a 1997 VS Holden Commodore Executive. It has done probably about 1500 Ks under 300,000 kilometres, and it's in pretty good nick. It's not too bad. It's not the cleanest motor on earth, but it's not bad. I mean, you know, the rocker cover gasket leaks, and yes, I do need to change it, but I can't really be bothered at the moment. It's only just leaking a small amount. It's one of the advantages of keeping your engine clean is you can find oil leaks where they're coming from. Most people will look at, you know, how oily a motor is underneath, like when it's on a hoist or jack stands, and they'll say, oh, rear main seal, rear main crank seal's leaking, when in fact it's 9 times out of 10 it's probably a rocker cover gasket or something like that. And in some cases, but not very often, a valley plate gasket. So it's worth pressure cleaning the hell out of it and just making sure it is actually a rear main seal, because some mechanic or friend could be leading up the garden path. So anyway, having removed the oil filler cap, that facilitates in the oil draining out of the sump. Now, do not place the oil filler cap on top of the plenum cover. The reason for that is if you forget that it's there and you slam the bonnet, you'll ruin the cap and the bonnet. So I like to shove it in there so it can't get lost. Yeah, don't put anything on top of the motor or the air cleaner, because you'll ruin whatever it is if you shut the bonnet, and you'll also ruin the bonnet of the car. So anyway, having previously loosened the sump plug with my king chrome ratchet and 19mm socket, do not use an open ender and do not use a shifter, because it will ruin the sump plug. So anyway, one of the things I like to do, I don't know if that's going to come out because the camera's probably on the wrong angle. Typical, wouldn't it? Let's shove a 3/4. Let's shove a 3/4 wing spanner underneath the camera. It's gonna bloody stay there. Bloody thing, isn't that like your socks? Still gonna rot my socks. Bloody hell. Rotten thing's not gonna stay there. Alright. So anyway, I'm gonna have to hold the camera. I got one basic reason for doing this, and that reason is to clean off some of the crap that's accumulated. Got a leaky rocker cover gasket or two, so it's just weeping down the side of the motor. I'm not going to do anything about it at the moment. So anyway, it's nice and clean, no crap can get in the close up of that. I wouldn't say it's the cleanest sump on earth, but look, it says I've got great big clods of crap hanging off it. Now, what you want to do, loosen the plug, not all the way, just sort of, just to the point where you reckon it's about to go. Now, technique. Okay. The technique is to get your hand away from the stream of oil, because I drove down and I actually drove this thing down to get the oil and oil filter, so it's hot. It's not cool at all. Now, what you want to be doing is going down and getting a new sump plug washer. Now, what Repco like to do is fob you off a nylon sump plug washer. Yeah, you got rocks in your head if you use a plastic washer for anything on a car. Like, nylon's a pain because you can't really, it's very, very tricky to gauge exactly how tight the sump plug is. Do not recycle the sump plug washer like I'm doing, because you might be paying, you could potentially be paying up to $100 for a bottle of synthetic oil. Okay, yes I didn't, but just say you did, it'll leak out and you'll waste quite a lot of money. So one of the golden rules, keep it clean. It's not one of the nicest sump plug washers on Earth, sump plugs I should say, because people have attacked it with screwdrivers. Now, the reason why this has been done is because people like to tighten the crap out of a sump plug, right? So that washer ends up crushed around the thread, and you can't get the washer off. Now here is an absolutely golden piece of advice. If you can't get your sump plug washer off and it's screwed and you want to change it, you got your socket. Take your socket off your ratchet, right? It's got to be the correct socket. Obviously can't be wrong. Generally, sump plug washers are quite a lot wider than this one is. But put a piece of hardwood down or whatever and invert it, put it on your hardwood, and belt the end of the socket with a hammer, and that'll generally... Okay, yeah, this is a crappy little sump plug washer. It's a copper one, but it's really too small. That'll generally force it off, and it won't screw it. If you're really in trouble, very carefully tap a screwdriver between the sump plug and the washer. I mean, it's not a very good idea, but you know, you really will just damage the sump plug, and if you do that, it's not going to seal. So it's got a nick in it, but it doesn't leak, so I'm not going to bother putting anything on it because it's just going to be a pain and make a mess. So everything's got to be clean. Don't tighten the crap out of the sump plug, for God's sakes. You'll just do damage. It's not going to seal any better it's not going to seal any better if He-Man tightened it than if, you know, just a nice nip. You're not aiming to tighten the crap out of it, you're just aiming to tighten it. Shove that under the car. Now, I don't think this sump plug, still on sump plug, got them in the brain. I don't think that's going to fit. This is my favourite oil filter removal tool. This is, get it in the shade so you can see. It's like a planetary gear type of thing. And when you undo it, the legs come in, and you can put a hell of a lot of force through that. So it's quite a good thing. Grab that 3/4. I don't think it is. Nah, what size that is. Some stupid size. It's not 19mm either. Nope. And I don't think... Okay, it's got a square drive, but the problem is... Oh, they give you a hex as well. I don't think this will fit between the oil filter and the... I just have a sneaking suspicion not going to fit in there. No, it does. There you go. How's that? So, yes, it is as dreadful as it seems, especially as I'm using one hand. But when you've had enough practice, you can sort of do things that you weren't designed to do. Pain in the ass. You really need two hands. If you're making videos for YouTube, you're going to have to make do with one. So anyway, let's tool to lock on. I know people like those seatbelt ones, but I'm too lazy to make one. I'm not paying a fortune for an oil filter removal tool. This tool, under 20 bucks, and it'll get off very tight oil filters. Really need to shove that camera, can be just shoved in there. Okay, the camera's probably not going to stay there, but you're just going to have to put up with it because I need two hands, and it's not going to happen unless I'm using two. Now that the camera's in the friggin' way either. Now, because I'm the one that fitted the filter last, not that tight. If you tighten the crap out of the oil filter, then it could damage the gasket, it could damage the filter, and it may not seal more importantly, it's going to be a damn nuisance to get off. So don't tighten the crap out of the filter. Do not use an oil filter removal tool to put the damn thing back on either. Anyone that's been watching closely will note that the drain container is still not under the filter yet. Right. Like when you get to the point where it's dripping, you're not going to get more oil out of it unless you're, a perfectionist. Now, anybody that knows me at all will know that I have a balance between being too fussy about things and replacing everything on a car that's, probably doesn't need to be changed, and getting the job done correctly. So just pick a halfway mark between someone that's slacker and someone that's a perfectionist. And a perfectionist is good, but you don't want to go overboard spending $2,000 on a car that's not worth $2,000. So you got to find a balance between what the car's worth, what the car means to you, and is it worth spending thousands of dollars on? No, probably not. But on saying that, if you keep a car in good condition, it'll last you for a long time. Stupid bloody ratchet. So, do replace things before they're a problem. Like, you want to be doing hoses that look sad. You want to do them before they're sad. But now, anyone that's watching carefully is going to note that I'm only using one hand to tighten it. So I didn't tighten it a lot. Move the container underneath splash the oil over the ground, good stuff. So remove your filter, spin the filter off. I like to get the filter as vertical as soon as possible, because it's just going to put oil all over the joint otherwise. Now, one thing to note is that the gasket for the filter came off with the filter and didn't stay on the car. Now, this little guy is the filter gasket. I have a habit of keeping these. I'm not really sure why, because I've used two of these things once. But anyway, make sure that doesn't stay on the motor, because sometimes they do, and you can ruin a motor by not checking things like that. So shove the filter, preferably somewhere where it's not going to be a problem, so that'll do, in the cylinder of that G60 patrol motor. Now, going to the back of the car. Oil. Where the hell is the... I have to move this crap out of the way because I'm going to get oil all over everything. Takes a lot of skill to do stuff with oily hands when you're trying not to get oil everywhere. Right. Castrol GDX. Nothing fancy. And I think it was $28, $29. Sakura. Never heard of them. Okay, now this is basically the part number in Ryco oil filter form is Z154. So if you've got a Commodore, grab any filter that is compatible with a Z154 and it will go straight on. Most filters seem to have the same thread, and the difference is the width of the face of the filter and quite often the length. Like if you get the wrong filter, it might screw on to the boss on the motor, but you can't get the filter to stay there. Sorry, you're doing two things at once. You can't get the yeah, okay, not a bad filter, I suppose. Wouldn't say it's got a heap of anyway, be an alright filter. Yeah, you can't, if the filter's too long, it won't clear the cross member. the chassis rail. It won't clear the chassis rail. So this filter's actually come pre-lubed, as you can see in the video. See how it's kind of wet? However, anyone that's subscribed to V8 Jagnut, and from listening to him talk about what some silly people do when they service cars, will know that you really should lubricate the filter face. So I'm not going to pre-fill the filter, and I'm not going to go slugging heaps of oil on it either, because I don't want to get oil everywhere, but a little bit of oil in there. The premise behind this is that the oil I just shoved in there around the rim, it's all over the gasket anyway. As you can see, it's wet, but it's also going to run down like that. So here's a common question people ask me all the time: how tight should you do an oil filter? The answer is not that tight. It tells you on the back it is, I think it's about 3/4 of a turn once the filter gasket contacts the boss. So you don't want to be tightening the hell out of it, because it could cause it to leak, and very likely outcome is you'll never get it off next time you go to change the oil. So it's nothing more annoying than servicing a car and some moron has tightened the crap out of the damn filter, because you end up with videos of people on YouTube swearing and chucking a hissy fit. So yeah, and that's definitely what I would do, maybe. So you want to tighten it firmly, because you don't want all the oil to piss out, but by the same token you don't want to tighten the crap out of it. So 3/4 of a turn, not a bad sort of happy medium. Now, clean funnel, pain in the ass. Funnels always end up filthy and covered in shit. This is what I like to use as a funnel. So you get the funnel opening tool. This is a sharp knife, trust me. I spend so much time sharpening this knife that if you're doing this with your favourite sharp knife, do not damage the blade on the concrete. Now, just make sure that Coke bottle's dry. This has been rinsed out and dried, but I'm giving it a flick anyway. Okay, get a clean rag. If you're not satisfied that the damn thing is dry, just give it a clean, give it a wipe out, make sure it's dry. How well do you think an engine's going to run when it's got oil and water in there from the funnel that you used and didn't dry properly? But this bit of the towel I'm using is clean, so please don't comment telling me that it's not. So yes, I know some of the towels are oily, but it was a new towel before this. I know, shocking, shouldn't be using towels, but the towel's crap anyway, it's ripped. So I know people think I'm terrible for using household stuff to work on cars with, but the towel's crap. So, having verified that the Coke bottle is both clean and dry, it just fits in there. Sort of get it to stuff in there. Actually sits in there. It's not going to do it today. Normally I use a 2-litre Coke bottle. I can do this. I can do this with no, not gonna happen. Damn, god damn it. Grab a piece of crap from your toolbox that you cleaned and dried on your pants. Stuff the damn thing in there so don't damage the bloody thing, the rocker cover, because it won't seal in. I know it's terrible and I should be shot for doing it, but I did it, so sue me. Now, the sump capacity of this thing is It's not 5 litres. It's like 4 point something litres. So what you do is you pour in, you should know the sump capacity. If you don't, you're going to have to reference the dipstick every 5 minutes. Pour in all the oil except a litre. Please don't get it all over the engine. You spent all that time cleaning. It's got a level gauge on there. Not quite at a litre yet, but if I pour in everything but a litre, it should be nearly just about right. Actually a little bit more than a litre, but got a bit there. Okay, now oil filter in this thing holds about half a litre, so you are going to have to allow for that before you start up the engine. You should be checking it afterwards anyway. If you're not going to, you really should make sure there's enough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sit the dipstick in, but just leave it hanging out. I know it's terrible, I know I'm lazy, I don't really give a crap. Sorry. Ugh, got the keys on me. Anyway, you guys can sit there and the keys. Now, I don't bother pre-filling oil filters after I change the oil unless it's a really big filter, because it takes a lot of time, and like a guy from Caterpillar pointed out to me, you fill the filter up with contaminants. So, oil indicator is the one next to that little amber check engine light. Right. If the oil pressure doesn't pick up within, probably, I reckon 10 seconds of running, maybe 15 or 20 at the most, check it and find out if there's a problem, because you do not want to screw the bearings in the engine and God knows what else just because you were too lazy to make sure it was alright. Because, yeah, anyway. Right, now this does need a little bit more oil. Jive with the fact that I think there's more than a litre of oil in there. So very carefully, without getting it all over everything. Now, don't pour too much in, for God's sakes, because it's not very good to overfill an engine either. Make sure your Coke bottle funnel's nice and drained out. No, just in case anyone's wondering, I do not advertise for Coca-Cola or Amatel. I just drink a hell of a lot of Coke, so therefore I have Coke bottles lying around and not any other brand. If you like any other brand of soft drink, I do apologise, and I hope I'm not violating anything on YouTube. It's actually not bad. I'm not going to put any more oil in it because it hasn't quite run down from the top of the engine. And this video is already 23 minutes, which is well and truly too long for a YouTube video, but